One of the greatest challenges with our hobby is the one and done nature of our hobby. It has gotten much worse since Kickstarter has come out, but it's always been a problem for our hobby. Great games that get printed once and never come out or never get reprinted because there's not enough supply and demand for them. Now, video games figured out a way to get around this years and years ago by making digital versions of games. You can go to GOG, Steam, or various different websites to go ahead and get games that are from the yesteryear, and they will remain out there for pretty much forever as long as those digital platforms exist. Unfortunately, until board games embrace the 3D revolution and we start buying board games where we just download STL files, download some programs or some files that we print out, until that ever happens, board games will always be a one and done hobby. Try to go out there and find classic games such as Freedom in the Galaxy. Sure, it's been kind of redone by Fantasy Flight Games when they made their Star Wars games. Trust me, it's pretty much Freedom in the Galaxy, but if you ever want to play Freedom, it's not going to happen. Maybe if you want to play a classic game such as Wizard Quest, again, it's just not going to happen unless you're lucky enough to own a copy of the game. Now, we are fortunate that sometimes if there is enough supply and demand for a game, sometimes it will come back out. Now, I'm not going to lift this up because it's going to make one heck of a mess, but we know that Heroes Quest, we were pretty lucky on this one. It actually came back out as a full reimagining of the game. But what it was just a 100% carbon copy of what the game originally was, with all of its warts and all. And you know what? Hero Quest didn't hold up that well, but that's probably a topic for another video. Fortunately, we've been very lucky, though, that some developers, some people who make board games have decided to take some classic board games, modernize them just a little bit for modern sensibilities, get rid of some of the problems, and go ahead and upgrade them in a really good way. And you can take a game such as Magic Realm, modernize it just a little bit, and you end up with Dragons Down. Hey everybody, welcome to Off the Shelf Gaming Reviews. This is a YouTube channel dedicated to our tabletop gaming hobby, and this is a video that's going to do a playthrough for Dragons Down. Now, Dragons Down is a spiritual let's just call it a re-implementation of the classic game of Magic Realm. And one of the biggest struggles I have with Dragons Down is the fact that I never played Magic Realm. And I truly feel that this game was written and designed with the expectation, that you have some familiarity with the game of Magic Realm. If you don't, there's going to be some things in the rulebook that just don't make sense. So I thought what I would do is film a video that is a very slow talk-through playthrough of a full game, a full 30-round play of the game. We're going to break this into 3 separate videos, and there's a reason why I want to do that. The first video, I'm going to just cover the first 5 rounds, and during those first 5 rounds, I'm going to talk through everything. My goal is to talk through everything in a thematic way, but also in an instructional way to help you understand why the things work with the game the way they do. Second video is going to be turns 6 through 15, so basically 10 more turns of the game. We're going to speed things up just a little bit, do a little bit less talking, and if phases are being skipped, I'm not going to cover them. I'm just going to move past them because those phases are being skipped. Finally, the third video is going to be turns 16 through turns 30, where I'm just going to play the game through the game, just doing some talking to keep the video entertaining, but I'm also going to speed it up in anticipation that at that point you understand how the game is played. I think that's going to be good for a lot of people because, like I said, this game, to me, the rulebook really does feel and present like it's kind of saying, hey, you played Magic Realm before? Well, this is re-implementation. If you haven't played Magic Realm before, you're going to have some struggles here. I'm trying to counteract those struggles and maybe help you enjoy this game a lot more. Now, I'm not doing this as a knock against the designer. If you've ever been to my house, well, you probably haven't, or at least hopefully not. And if you have, well, that's a little bit creepy. But if you've ever been to my gaming table, you know that I do enjoy his games. This is the 3rd game from Scott that I actually own. I own Hellenica, which is probably one of the greatest strategy, military, civilization style games that I've ever played that does what it does. It does it so fantastically well. If you disagree with me, well, you're wrong. But it's also a fantastic game, and I think he does design very good games. I enjoy them quite a bit. I just had some struggle with Dragons Down, and that actually incentivized me to film a video series for the game itself. In this video, like I said, I'm going to do a playthrough. It's going to be 3 videos of turns I've already explained. I'm going to do a separate video. I'm actually going to do a full teach of the game, a little bit more of a basic teach where I'm just going to break down the turns, not through actual gameplay, but I'm actually just teach how to play the game. I might do a full review of the game. I haven't decided if I'm going to do that yet. I don't know if that's what I want to do. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do with the channel. I'm sure you're aware that I've been gone for quite a while for, well, various different reasons. I may cover them one day, I may not, but there were some personal reasons that caused it. So what am I going to do here? I'm going to break everything down here, but there's going to be some things, some liberties I'm going to take for the fact that I'm filming this on camera. What I want to do is I want to do the basics of Dragons Down plus the Desolation expansion. Why do I want to do that? Because Desolation adds a couple different things that I think people will enjoy seeing. I really do think that Dragons Down is both the base game plus the expansion. That's what really makes the game. Additionally, I feel, and this is a personal feeling about how I feel about the game, I think the number of players plus 1 is basically how many of the tile sets you should use. So I do feel that when you're playing it as a solo game, I think you should use 2 tile sets. If you're playing a 4-player game, use 5 tile sets, and if you're using 5 or 6 players, we'll still stick with 5 tile sets. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. This game does play very, very well up to 6 players. I know people are going to harp at me and say, oh my God, the downtime. Oh my God, simultaneous turns. It works. Trust me, it works. Stop complaining about downtime. There's a fix for it. Everybody takes their turn at the same time. As long as you're not playing competitive with PvP, you can do it. Everybody takes all their actions at the same time, unless the turn order really, really matters, and it rarely ever does. Then everybody goes to the combat phase. Again, turn order really, rarely ever matters that aspect too. The game does play really fast at 5 or 6 players. I've done it. I can guarantee it does it as long as you understand the concept of simultaneous turns. So, like I said, there's a couple little bit of liberties I'm taking with this, but I think it'll make sense to you, and I'm going to explain every single one of those liberties as we do it, because I'm going to make liberties I've already explained for the size of the table, but also when I'm building the map, I'm going to want to orient the map that's going to be very nice to people looking at the top-down camera. So basically, I'm going to purposely organize the tiles in a way that makes it very easy for this camera up here to see everything. Yes, it does violate the rules when we're building the map, but just understand that's exactly why I'm doing it. So enough of the chit chat. I'm going to go ahead and get the game started here. I'm going to pick the 2 tile sets. I'm basically thinking what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the mountains. I'm going to do the plains just because it sounds very cool. Those are the 2 terrain types I'm going to pick. I haven't decided what race and what class I'm going to do quite yet. I'm thinking I'm either going to do a dwarf or a half orc, and I'm probably thinking I'm going to be a caster of some kind. Now, the reason why I'm doing a caster of some kind is because I think that's what people really want to see, because that is a little bit of a hiccup that can be caused when you're learning the game, because it seems so strange that you cast spells during the battle phase. Sure, if you cast a fireball during the battle phase, that definitely makes sense. But if you cast a movement spell during the battle phase, you're kind of going, why? This doesn't make sense. Well, there's thematic reasons for it. Basically, the original Magic Realm was played in a day and a night cycle. And if you ever played a game of Mage Knight, you understand the concept of a night phase where magic is stronger. Well, it's kind of the same thing here, except you only cast your spells at night. But it feels weird here because night is the battle phase. Well, if you play Magic Realm, apparently it makes a heck of a lot more sense. I had to research it because I never played Magic Realm. It was super confusing to me. But now that I understand it, it makes more sense. But again, I was going stark raving bonkers. I'm trying to figure out, how do I cast a movement phase when there's a dragon breathing down my neck? It ain't working. Well, I finally figured it out. I'm hoping to spread all that knowledge to all of you out there so you can enjoy this really, really great implementation of the classic game of Magic Realm. So normally the first thing we need to do is we need to figure out exactly which scenario we're going to play, because certain scenarios require to use certain terrain types. I already know what scenario I'm going to play and play the legend scenario, but just want to cover that is something important that you need to do as the very first thing. Additionally, you also need to figure out if you want to use one of these Dragons Down Adventurer Journals. Now, they're kind of fun. They're kind of cool to do. What you'll do is you place down what you did every single day of the, or however you want to look at it. I pretty much consider every one of the turns as a day. So what you did on every single day, what you discovered, what you found, and all the hidden paths and everything you've accomplished. The hidden paths portion of this is really, really important, especially in a multiplayer game. In a single player game, not that important because you probably figure out which paths you've discovered, at least remember them. And also let you know about the discoveries, which is good for tracking down the legendary points or the fame points. Well, not the fame points, but the legendary points in case you make a mistake and you're like going, did I take points for this? Well, I can add up everything I've discovered, look at my current legendary points and figure out if I've accurately covered everything. It was kind of fun to use, but again, just as a way to make life easier for the camera, I'm just going to track the game using these little stones right here. I have exactly 30 stones in this little tub right here, and I'm going to take one out every time a new day starts. Once this is empty, I know the game is over. Of course, you don't want to make the game go that far, because if you make it to day 30, at the end of day 30, if you are not in a town or a village or an outpost or along those lines, you lose half of all the fame you've acquired. Now, every 10 points of fame is a legendary point, and in this game, we're trying to get a certain amount of legendary points. If you're playing a multiplayer game, generally speaking, based on the scenario you're playing, whoever has the most legendary points at the end of a certain gameplay is going to be the winner of the game. When you're playing the game solo, you need to get to a certain amount of legendary points, or whatever happens to be in one of these specific scenarios. Now, examples, some of these scenarios are very specific and have certain things that you're trying to do or accomplish, and some of them are going down different paths, such as a demon one where you're trying to fight your inner demon. There's different ones that do different things, but again, we're not going to play one of these scenarios, because what I want to do is I just want to play the basic standard legendary scenario itself, because I think it's going to be a lot easier and a lot better for teaching you how to play the game right here. So the basic legendary scenario is on the first page right here, and it's the legendary sandbox. Basically what we have is we have 30 turns to go ahead and figure out if we can get to 20 legendary points. If we get to 20 legendary points, congratulations, we win. Every additional legendary point beyond that is just extra bragging rights. If we don't get to 20, we fail the scenario. So we're going to go ahead and just toss this off to the side, because we're just playing the basic legendary scenario. Now, since I'm playing the basic legendary and I'm playing this as a solo game, I basically need to have 2 different train types that I'm going to play with. Again, this is 100% a personal thing. A lot of people love to play this game with 3 terrain packs, and I actually find that is actually rather enjoyable. It's not going to be enjoyable to put it on the camera, though, because that many terrain packs are just going to get off the camera's scope of what the camera can cover. So we're going to play with 2 specific terrain packs. And again, I also kind of think that if you're playing the game solo, 2 terrain packs is better, because it keeps the game a little bit tighter. It also makes it feel a little more compact. Well, when you play the game, you can decide if you want to play 3 terrain packs or just with 2 when you play a solo game. Basically what you've done is, once you figure out which terrain packs you're going to play with, we need to start putting together our game board. Now, every single terrain pack is going to come with a package of enemies that we can encounter. So for the perilous mountains, or I'm sorry, the malevolent mountains right here, is going to come with this group of enemies. This terrain type right here, the perilous plains, are going to come with their own pack of enemies. You're also going to get your own specific missions that are specific to that terrain type. You have 3 different kinds of mission types. You have the murder hobo kinds, you have the standard delivery kind, and you have the holier than thou kind of missions. Well, they're not quite like that, but in a way they kind of are. They're going to have different rewards available to them. There's going to be basically available on those specific missions. Now, if you're not using a terrain type, you do not use the missions for that specific terrain type. Now, this is not going to show up on camera, but I'll show you where exactly it shows up on every one of these cards. Every single one of these cards is going to have a symbol down in their lower left-hand corner, which is going to match the symbol on your terrain type. Again, it's not going to show up on camera, but if you look on your terrain types, right down the bottom, it's going to show the terrain type. Make sure it matches. For every single terrain type, you're going to grab all the mission cards that matches that specific terrain type. And since I'm playing 2 terrain types, we get 2 stacks of mission cards. I'm going to take all these mission cards, and I'm going to shuffle these all together. Now, hopefully this is going to shuffle really good, but I'm trying to do this quickly, because nobody wants to watch 5 minutes of shuffling or rifle shuffling or all these different things just to get the perfect amount of missions. That's good enough for me. We'll place our missions down over here off to the side. We're also going to move our different kind of enemies off this side as well. After we have our mission decks put together, and of course we're also going to shuffle deep treasures, our items, and our spells. Of course, don't shuffle the items yet, because you're going to have to shuffle again in a minute. I'll explain to you why that's going to be very, very important, but I've already shuffled them because, hey, I like doing double work for some strange reason. Once we have our specific terrain types, each one of these terrain types is going to come with 6 specific terrain tiles that's specific to that terrain type. One of the 6 terrain tiles is only going to have 4 locations on it. The other 5 are going to have 6 locations on it. The difference is the main one that only has 4 on it is going to be the space where well, there's different ones. There's a village, there's a keep, there's an outpost, etc., etc. Basically, where the place where the people, the natives of this realm, basically live, are going to be on the 4 location tiles, but the other ones are we're going to run into bad guys and stuff like that. I'll explain how it all works in just a little bit. So basically, we're going to take our terrain tiles, we're going to take our terrain card, which is going to have the very specific locations. You're also going to have a token that's going to be double-sided, should show the same thing on both sides, and it's going to be listed on the tile right here. So we see that the village goes with the perilous plains. We see that the keep goes with the malevolent mountains. You're also going to see these little symbols of bad guys. You're not going to cover those up. Those just let you know that those bad guys are associated with those specific locations. When those locations come out, bad things can potentially happen based on the roll of the dice. Additionally, you need to get your wilderness tokens, and now they're called wilderness tokens, but you'll see I don't have any wildernesses in play. They're still called wilderness tokens. Every single terrain type has its own wilderness tokens that are associated with it. You're going to take them, you're going to shuffle them up, and you're going to place them face down in a little spot that happens to go for the wilderness tokens. Now I'm going to put these face up just to show you exactly what they do. Some will have specific locations, some will be sites, and then when we reveal them, we're going to reveal these larger sites. And they're also going to give us treasures, items, and various different things. It's going to allow us to have a board that's going to modify and change every time we play it. And again, we're going to grab the whole group of these based on the tiles that we have in the game. Now, there are the wilderness tokens, which I've already explained to you are going to be placed face down and shuffled up. There's also going to be 2 location tokens that are going to be specific to that terrain type. Again, there's going to be a little symbol down the bottom. Again, for the mountains, it's going to be a little mountain symbol. And these are going to be white on the back. There should be 2 for every one of these terrain types. And we're going to take these and we're going to shuffle these up once we've established them. So I have my 2 for my mountains, I have my 2 for my village. I'm going to take all 4 of these, I'm going to shuffle them up because these different locations can cross-pollinate with the other ones. So I could have the village locations show up in the keep. I could have the keep locations show up in the village. That's perfectly normal. It's supposed to happen, adds to the variety of the game. So that basically means a scholar could be in the village. It also means a vendor could be in the keep. It's cool. It adds to the fun of the game. Now, generally what you're supposed to do is keep these in a little pile, and then when you reveal those locations, you're supposed to add these onto the board. To make my life simple, since I've shuffled them up, I'm just going to take the 2, place them here. Take the other 2 and place them right here. Again, it's just to make my life easy with the overhead camera. Additionally, once we have all of our wilderness tokens all shuffled up and face down, we're not going to look at them anymore. We're going to take all these wilderness tokens, place them on top of our tile right there, and we're going to do the same with the other side. Shuffle them up nice and good so we don't know which ones are which, and then simply place them on top of our board right here. And we'll be drawing these, and various cool things will be happening for all the players. Now, additionally, we're also going to have some site tokens. Now, it's very easy to find these site tokens by looking at the symbol down here on the bottom of them, or you can see that they manage to match up with all the different locations. There's one for the crypt if you have the mountains. There's one for the horde, and then there's one going to be for the chamber. And additionally, over here, we're going to have one for the monolith. Now, we don't have any one for the wrecked wagons, but that's specific to this terrain type. Generally speaking, you usually have 2 or 3 of those tokens to put out. Next up now, we need to go ahead and pick our hero by picking the race of our hero and actually what class we're going to play. Now, remember, like I said earlier, I'm going to try to pick a class that can do spellcasting, but I also do some melee because I think I want to show all the gameplay to give you an idea of exactly how this all works, and it's going to make a lot more sense to see it all put together versus doing something like a dwarven barbarian, which would be kind of fun, or maybe doing like an elven druid, which could also be fun, but they definitely have their play styles. Elven druids are not going to do a lot of fighting, and a dwarven barbarian is definitely not going to do a lot of spellcasting. So I'm trying to figure out something that's going to incorporate both those very, very well. So I put everything off to the side here. We have our malevolent mountains and our perilous plains over here. I'm just going to call them the mountains and the plains because otherwise I'm probably going to screw something up here when I try to say it. What we have to do is to take all of these various different site tokens and shuffle them all together. Now, the interesting thing is just because the monolith is associated with the perilous plains, it can still appear in the mountains. And the way it's going to happen is the way we're going to reveal these site tokens. So what you want to do is you want to take these site tokens and shuffle them very, very well. That way you don't know exactly which sites are going to appear, when they're going to appear, or which terrain type they're going to appear in. So all these different races and all these different classes, they all come with their various different benefits. For example, the half-elves, and again, all these cards are double-sided. You have a front and a back side, depending if you want a male or a female picture. It's a nice touch that they add in here. But let's go over these very, very quickly so you can see exactly how these all work. This lower left-hand corner right here, don't worry about it. It only matters if you're going to play PvP, and I'm not covering PvP here at all. Don't play PvP the first time you play the game, or the second, or probably even the third time. Go through the scenarios, go through all the gameplay, learn how the game plays, then go do that PvP because it is kind of fun. But basically what you're going to do is you have your various different races right here. And you're going to take your race and you're going to put it on the lower left-hand side of your board right here. Scoot that up just so everybody can see it nice and easily right here. But your races will go here on the left-hand side, your classes will go here on the right-hand side, and you're going to combine them together to go ahead and make your hero. Now, the top three, these little gold coins, are going to represent your various stats. You have your intelligence, you have your wisdom, and your charisma. It'll make sense when I explain how that all works. Next up, we're going to see how many hit points we have. We see that half elves start with no hit points. That's a bad thing. Also, hit points is a bad way to describe these. Think of it more like toughness. That's going to make more sense when I describe how combat works. Think of it like toughness. If you have enough hit points or toughness to withstand an attack, you're going to be wounded. That's a good thing. If you don't have enough toughness or hit points, you die instantly. So if you have 5 hit points and you take 5 points of damage, you're dead. If you have 5 hit points, you take 4 points damage, you only take 1 wound. I'll explain how that works when we get to combat. But basically, just understand, think of hit points like toughness. It'll make much more sense to you. But after that, we have our maneuverability, which is how fast we attack and how good we are at attacking. Your attack speed. The first thing you have is your attack speed, which is how fast you attack and how good you are attacking. Then you have your maneuverability, which is your ability to dodge and avoid combat or avoid in combat and make sure you're not hit. Basically, it makes it harder for the opponents to hit you. So basically, stats, hit points, attack, and defense. And sometimes you're going to have a bonus on the lower right-hand corner. For example, elves, when we pick a half elf, we can take any one cube of any one of the magic colors because they're magical. And the different magics can help us cast all the spells. Every single spell belongs to a certain specific color. We're also going to have a special ability that's unique to every single one of our races. Now, half-elves get to pick their elven heritage or their human heritage. Half-orcs come with the ability that they do not get slowed down by mounts, which is kind of cool. And again, I don't know why we only have 2 half-orcs, but 4 of every other race in the game. Can't figure it out. I would rather have 4 half-orcs so we can play a 4 half-orc party, but I guess I can't do that. Elves are going to come with their own benefits. Humans are going to come with their own benefits. And then finally, dwarves are going to have their own benefits. And then finally, we get the halflings. So again, I need to pick the race I want to play so I figure out exactly what I want to play through. I am kind of waffling between a dwarf and a half-orc. I want something that can melee and cast together. If I went half-elf, I'm probably not going to be doing a lot of melee. If I go half-orc or dwarf, it may be a little bit harder to cast, but probably not that much harder. So basically, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with the half-orc. And I'll explain why we're going to go with half-orc in just a little bit. But basically what this means is I have 1 hit point and I have 1 extra attack cube. So we're going to put this down here on the lower left-hand of our side, and we know that we are basically a half-orc something. I haven't figured out what kind of half-orc we are, but we're definitely a half-orc something. You're going to notice that we don't have a lot of bonuses to our stats. You see that the dwarf has a bonus to intelligence, and they have a bonus to their wisdom, but not a bonus to charisma. We look at half-elves, we see that bonus to intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. That doesn't matter when we get to the points where we're doing haggling and interacting and doing various different quest things, but beyond that, it's not going to matter that much, so I'm not going to worry about it. Next up, we're going to have our various different classes, and you're going to see that the classes are going to add more cubes and give us more additional things that we can do. And additionally, on top of that, every single one of these classes comes with one of their own special powers that is very, very unique to them. For example, we can see that, I'll just pick one here at random that I know off the top of my head very, very well. Okay, I'll pick the Battle Mage. The Battle Mage has the ability that they can take a purple cube and use it to add to their attack ability. That's very, very nice. We have the Trickster, we have the Witch. The Witch comes with an imp, that's what that symbol means. We have the Cleric, we have the Druid. The Druid has the ability that they can use green cubes more efficiently. Sometimes when you cast spells, casting spells are going to wound you. They can minimize that chance of that happening. Enchanters have a better chance of enchanting tiles, all these different things. So beyond the stats that they add, they also have special abilities. Now, like I said earlier, I want to do a melee caster that can do that very, very well. And I think the Battle Mage is probably going to be a good stand-in for that. I was thinking half-orc conjurer at first because they can kind of do some good melee and some good casting. But whenever I play half-orc conjurer, I always like going with the air sword. And while the air sword is super duper cool, and it might show you some good gameplay, I think I want to do something a little bit different. I haven't actually played a half-orc battle mage before, and I think it could actually be fun. So we're going to take that, we're going to place it on the right-hand side, and now we need to figure out all the stats we have based on the extra cubes we're going to get. So we're going to just basically look from top to bottom and see that when it comes to haggling, we suck. We're not going to do a lot of haggling in this game. We're basically going to do a lot of fighty, smashy, killy, and a lot of questing because, hey, that's going to be fun. I'll probably try to haggle just so you can see how miserable I can be at it, and it might be fun to watch me fail at haggling because I'm definitely going to fail at haggling as a half-orc battle mage. But hey, it's going to be fun either way. So we see that we have 3 hearts, So we'll take 3 hearts and we're going to put it in a healthy box right here. This is the injured box. This is the healthy box. So we're going to have 3 hearts right here. Again, think of your hearts like toughness. Don't think of it like hit points, because even if you have 3 hit points and if you get hard enough, it doesn't matter how many hit points those hearts you have, you're dead in 1 hit. Think of it like toughness. It makes much, much more sense. Next up, we're going to see that we have 1 red plus 2 more red cubes. Now, these cubes are a little bit miscolored, which is kind of an odd thing. I don't know if it happened just in production or what, but it's more like a salmon color, at least my box copy is. So these salmon colored cubes are supposed to be these reddish cubes. And again, these are going to be used for our combat. That's those salmon colored cubes. I'm going to call them red because they're supposed to be, but in my copy of the game, they're definitely much more salmon. Next up, we're going to have our maneuverable cubes, which are going to be the brown ones. These are going to be used for our speed and everything like that. We're going to place these brown cubes down here. We're going to place these red cubes up here. Sorry, these salmon cubes up here on our cards that we're going to use for attacking. In addition, we're going to get 1 purple cube, which is going to be for a spell. Now we actually have 1 more additional choice to go ahead and make for our battle mage, because you're going to see the battle mage has some things they're going to start with on the lower right-hand corner. It's a double-sided card. The other side of the card is going to show us different things. So one side of the battle mage is a short bow wielder, more of a ranged attacker. And then the other side is going to be more of a melee attacker, because they're going to come with an iron helm, a spear, 1 spell, and 10 gold. I think that's the one I'm going to start with, because that to me sounds like a much more fun thing, at least for the playthrough. Although showing the short bow might be a nice thing to show, but I don't think we're going to do that. Let's go ahead and go with the battle mage. Although I'm tempted to do short bow. That way you can see how the ranged combat dice work, but might be a little bit too unpredictable for what we're showing, so let's not do that. Let's go ahead and do this. So I need to go through the item deck. I need to find the iron helm. That was easy. And the next thing I need to find is I need to find the spear. So I might need to shuffle. No, there's a shuffle pretty good. I need a spear. Not a staff, a spear. So this makes wonderful, wonderful video when you get to watch this. So I'm probably going to speed this up so it's going to look really, really funny as I rifle through these at like 4 times speed. Or not. There's the spear. Once you have your items, and once all the players, and if you're playing a multiplayer game, have all the items they need for their specific classes, we're simply going to shuffle these up. Shuffle. That was a terrible shuffle. It's an absolutely miserable shuffle. Let's do a little bit better next time. So we're going to shuffle those up just like that, and then we are going to get some additional things. We're going to get 1 spell, and we're going to get 10 gold. Now, 10 gold is going to be pretty darn decent. That's going to help us a little bit. Next thing we want to look at is we're going to see down here whether we have 1 cross sword or 1 sword, or if that's cross swords. If it's cross swords, that's going to take up both of our weapon slots. If it's not, it's only going to take up 1 of our weapon slots. I'll put it off to the side right here. Iron helm over here, we see that's just a helm slot, so it doesn't show the helm and the body slot, so it's only going to cover our helm slot right there. And I'll explain how all this stuff works, but basically pendants, belts, boots, various things, rings, and again, we can have a second weapon and or a shield, which is probably better for us to get a shield out there. The nice thing about the spear is the spear can be thrown. It can also be used for melee, which is actually very, very powerful and super duper nice about it. Only thing left for me to do is go ahead and get our spell. Now there's going to be 2 spell decks. There's one that shows spells, and there's going to be one that shows hero starting spells. These decks are exactly the same. There's really no differences. These spells are in here, but this just allows us to get our starting spells. Once we pick our starting spells, this deck goes away, and we're going to draw from the spell deck for the rest of the game. So I start with 1 purple cube. That means I can pick purple spells. If I start with a green cube and a purple cube, that means I can pick from the green and the purple cubes, or cubes from the spells. If I had a white cube, a purple cube, and a black cube, that means I can pick from white, black, and purple spells. That's basically how it works. So since I start with 1 purple one, that means I can pick the break spell, which has any specific color, and then I can also pick with the purples. Now you're going to notice that the colors on these are a little bit off. This is the blue, this is the gray, and then this is the black. So it could be a little bit challenging to pick up, but if you pick it up pretty easily, that's basically how it works. I'm going to grab all the purple spells, and I'm also going to pick the break spell and decide if I want it. Why would I possibly want break spell? Well, first of all, I can't even cast it unless I enchant. We'll explain how that works when we get to it. But the break spell allows me to avoid curses. Now, there's curses in the treasure deck. There's curses in the deep treasure deck. Also, you can also get cursed when you're trying to learn spells. When you're trying to learn spells, you're going to roll dice. If I haven't covered this yet, and I haven't, but I'm going to cover it right now. In this game, the dice for Dragons Down hate you. Whenever you roll the dice, you're always going to pick the worst result. So this was a success and this was a failure, you're going to pick the failure. If this was a success and this was a curse, you're going to pick the curse. If this was a failure and this was a curse, you're going to pick the curse because you're always going to pick the dice result that hates you the most. So whenever you roll the dice, remember that. So basically the way we're going to get curses in the game is when we try to learn new spells or when we draw curses out of the deep treasure deck or the treasure deck. There's only, I believe, 1 or 2 curses on the deep treasure deck and 2 or 3 on the treasure deck, if I remember correctly. I've been wrong before, and somebody will probably correct me in the comments below. And we see just how thick this stack is. So the chance of us getting a curse out of that is not that high, but we do have a good chance of getting curses by rolling the dice and those dice hating us. So break spell could be really, really good. Iron Skin could be good if I didn't have armor. I start with armor. Strength could be really, really darn good, but it's not going to help us that much because we already have the Battle Mage ability that we can use a purple spell for our attack strength, so I don't need to worry about it. Fly could be really nice to get around the board. Fireball can be good for just blowing stuff up. And Shapeshift could be fun if we weren't a great melee character. We are actually a pretty good melee character, so I'm basically a toss-up between Fireball and between Break Spell. I think just to show you the most gameplay, and to hedge my bets and hopefully we don't get any curses, we're going to go with Fireball. Probably not the best idea, but hey, let's go and stick with it anyway. So we're going to add the Fireball to our spellbook, and the rest of these purple spells and this one non-colored spell or multicolored spell is going to be removed from the game. We're not going to use these anymore. Put them off to the side. You just don't need them anymore. Our hero is started, and now there's only one thing left to do, creating our map, and then we can basically start playing the game itself. So we're going to take one reminder card that tells us how to gain 1 victory points. We're going to take another reminder card, which is going to tell us how to get cursed. Let's hope we don't have to use that, but I'm pretty sure we're going to have to use it at least once during the game. Hopefully not, but it'll probably happen. The good news is we're almost done with setup, and we just have a few more things I like to do. I like to grab 4 of these little pink cubes so I can track my actions, because in this game you get 4 actions every single turn. Unless you go into a cave, we're not going to have any caves. Actually, wait, I might take that back. I think we actually have a couple caves in the mountains, unless I'm losing my mind. Yeah, we do have 2 caves in the mountains. But beyond that, we probably won't have to worry about that too much. We should have 4 action cubes. And again, you want to get your targeting little token right here, which is double-sided, used for targeting. Matches the symbol on your character token right here, which is also double-sided. One-sided reminder when you happen to get blocked. Let's hope that doesn't happen. And the standard side we use for our current interactions. Stick these off to the side because now we're going to come to the first caveat I'm going to take and the first liberty I'm going to take with this kind of walk-through, play-through video, what we're going to do here. Generally, what you're going to do when you play the game normally, and you're not trying to fit everything on a camera, which only has so much room on it, what you're going to do is you're going to shuffle up all the tiles involved for depending on the land types that you pick for the game, and you can evenly set these out among all the players. So if you're a 1 player, you're going to take all the tokens. If you're playing a 5-player game, you're going to evenly divvy these up among all the players. Once you have done that, all the players are going to build the map by laying out a tile, then lay out another tile. You must make sure the paths intersect. And then the next tile you lay out must connect to at least 2 tiles when you build it out there. So, for example, that's not even possible at all because of the way I built it right here. So, 2 things. 1, it's going to be a little bit hard to read on the camera because I actually want all these symbols laid out in a way that the camera can see it very easily. And 2, I don't want to do the fiddliness of going, okay, this isn't going to work, this isn't going to work, because that's going to tie up a whole bunch of camera time. So I'm basically going to stop the video right now, going to do a quick little pause, and I'm going to put this map together in a way that not only is it legal, again, the legalities are you must have 1 tile touching at least 2 tiles, and again, the paths have to legally go off. You can't do something like this because this path is going into nowhere. So this path is perfectly legal because this connects like this. Nothing connects right here, so this will be legal. I could lay out this one next because we're continuing past and we're going to keep building it like that. Again, I'm going to build this in a way that's good for the camera, a way that fits for the camera. So I'm going to go and pause things really quick and go ahead and do that. Still going to make it mostly random, but if things look a little bit strange, aren't fitting on the camera, I'm going to make a couple quick corrections just to make the map work perfectly for the camera. So let's go over the map really, really quick to explain everything that we have here. So we have the village down here, and then we have, where did I put the keep? I swear I put the keep somewhere. Oh, it's right there. So we have the village and the keep right next to each other, and we see all these paths. Now you're going to notice some different colors and different things on the map. I'll explain what they mean really, really super quick. If you see a clearing, and again, we're going to be moving across these clearings. So if I'm here, I'm going to move this clearing. Here's a bridge. Allows me to go to that clearing. Move that clearing, cross over on this tile, across on this tile, across this bridge. And we're basically moving around the tiles just like that. Different colors on the tiles mean different things, and they may be referenced for various different things depending on spells, abilities, cards, and everything like that. But this is just going to be a rough overview. Green is forest, white is plains, red is mountains. This blackish color is a cave, and there's also a swamp, and there's also I think I just covered them all. There's also a swamp that you have to worry about. So I don't think we have any swamps on any of the tiles I have out here. So this is all plains. That's plains and forest. That's mountain and plains. Lots of plains, plains and forest, mountains, plains, and forest on this tile. So you see how it basically works. Basically, if you're moving into a forest or a plains, don't need to worry about it at all. If you want to move into a mountain space, which would be a red space, it takes 2 points, or not 2 points, it takes 2 actions. Normally to do a move action is 1 action. But if you're moving into a mountain space, doesn't matter where you're moving from. So if you move from a mountain to a mountain, it just matters when you move into a mountain space. To move into a mountain space takes 2 of your actions to do so. So if I happen to be in this mountain space right here, and I start the turn with 4 actions, this will be 2 of my 4 actions, and this is the other 2 of my 4 actions, meaning I'm only going to move through 2 clearings this turn. Additionally, we also have caves in the game. Now, caves are very, very interesting. Anytime you enter a cave or start your turn in a cave, you lose 1 action automatically. Now, there are classes that break these rules. For example, in this example, the half-orc actually gets to ignore mountains, which is kind of cool about them. I get my full movement in mountains. I don't need to worry about that restriction. Dwarves have the ability that if they enter a cave or if they start their turn in the cave, they get all their full allotment of actions. Every other race in the game, if they start their turn in a cave or if they enter a cave on their turn, they lose an action, which means if you've used 3 of your action cubes already and you want to enter a cave, you can't, because not only do you have to use the action to get into the cave, you also lose an action cube for entering the cave. So that's one of the restrictions about caves. So what we'll have to worry about with this map are the caves and the mountains. I'm going to ignore the mountains because I'm half orc. So the only thing I really need to worry about are the caves. And with this map I built up, there's only 2 caves I need to worry about. Now all these tiles are double-sided. There is an action that allows me to flip over these tiles. Anytime you do so, you must keep the original orientation of the tiles. And that's basically why I want to do the words on the bottom so I don't mess that up. Basically, if I flip this tile over, I must keep the words on the bottom. And when I do so, the paths still must connect in the way they connected before. So that's the only thing left to do. The only final thing is, even though we don't have the Wicked Woods in this playthrough that we're having here, I have I almost said burglars, the bandits here in my Wicked Woods expansion, or terrain type, and they are also going to be part of the Perilous Plains, because they can actually pop out in the wrecked wagons, and they can also pop out in the Wicked Woods. So I have them off to the side just in case the bandits do appear. That may happen. It depends on how our adventure happens to go. But that is basically the entirety of the setup for this game. I know it's been long-winded, but I try to make it really extra wordy to explain how this all works so the game makes sense to all of you. The only thing I didn't explain that I'm going to do really, really quick here is the spear itself. Now, the spear can be used one-handed or two-handed. It can also be used as a melee weapon. It can also be thrown. The difference between a one-hander or two-hander is if I have it as a two-handed weapon, I can put up to 3 of my combat or my might cubes onto it to do 4 points of damage, 3 versus an armored enemy. If I'm using it one-handed, I can only put up to 2 cubes on it, which means I can only do 3 points of damage or 2 points of damage versus an armored enemy. Explain how that all works when we get to combat. So I really should, before we do anything, decide if I want to use this one-handed or if I want to use it two-handed. Since I actually have 2 might cubes, we're going to equip this as a two-handed weapon, which means if I get a shield, I need to re-equip that. That's the entirety setup. We're going to go and timestamp it. Let's go ahead and start the game with the very first action, because the very first thing we must do whenever we start the game is we must enter the map. Now, to enter the map, you must pick a location on the outskirts of the map and actually walk in. So that's be one of these outskirts areas right here, and we're simply going to walk into the location. And when we do so, that's going to be the first time we're going to encounter that map tile. The first time any map tile is ever explored for the very first time, and that's going to matter in a multiplayer game. In a solo game, obviously I'm only the person exploring, but in a multiplayer game, the first time a tile is explored, and that's why the little sheet I showed you earlier is so nice, you're going to reveal one of the tokens based on the terrain type. So if I decide to enter the meadows, I'm going to reveal a Perilous Plains token. If I decide to enter the Lonely Mountains, I'm going to reveal one of the mountain tokens. That's going to decide what kind of things and encounters I'm going to have here. Once you reveal a token, generally speaking, unless you find a specific token, that's going to be pretty much the only wilderness token that's going to appear on that map tile. So you can't do a thing where you bounce back and forth between two tiles, continuing to get those tokens. Again, only one token per tile. And it kind of guarantees the extra fun that forces you to go out there and explore. So now here's the big question. Where do I want it to map? Where do I want to explore to? What do I want to check out? Well, in my thought process, I basically have an iron helm. I have a spear. I can do okay in combat at this point. So I probably want to enter the map somewhat closer to either the keep or the village. And before I forget, I should make sure I put out the keep and the village because I didn't actually do that yet because I want to show you how that works. But I want to decide where I want to go to be heading to the keep and heading to the village because once I get to those locations, I can potentially find some merchants, buy some better gear, but only have $10 right now or 10 gold, which isn't enough money to buy really anything in the game. I'll explain how the cost of things work, but understand most things are kind of expensive. 10 gold ain't going to do much, especially since I am terrible at haggling. So I basically want to do some exploring, some adventuring, some treasure finding, then head to the keep or to the village. So I probably want to start right around here or start right around here or maybe even start right here, which is what I'm thinking about. But before we jump ahead, let's figure out where the village is going to be and where the keep is going to be. And we figure that out just by rolling a 6-sider. If we roll a 5 or 6, we re-roll, but we're going to roll for the keep first. That's going to be in one of these 4 spaces. We got a 3. I know it's slightly cocked, but I'm not going to slow down the video just for that. So the keep will start there. We will take all the occupants of the keep, which is going to be the knight leader and the fellow knights, and we're going to stick all of them in the keep just like that. If you get confused, and if you really want to, you can place them on top, or you can place them kind of off to the side so you can kind of remember that they're whatever's easiest for you. Now we'll roll for the village. I will roll a 2, so the village will pop up in the 2 right there, which is actually not that bad. We will take the village token. I'm sorry, we got the village token there. We're going to take all the villagers, and we're going to put them out here on top of the village. So signify that they are there. And now, back to our thought process, I am going to enter the map. And I think we're going to enter the map from the high pass over here, which allows us to go to the Tri-Peaks, which allows us to go to the village and possibly get some quests and possibly interact and do some various different things. There are 2 merchants who do exist at the village. I mean, I know they can pop up at the keep, but you understand what I'm saying. I'm hoping I get some little bit of interaction, and if nothing there, at least I'll be close to the keep by taking that path. I think it's going to be the best idea for us at the beginning of the game here. So we're going to enter from the high peak right over here and go ahead and do some exploring and have a little bit of fun. So we have our 4 actions. Let's go ahead and enter the map and do some exploring and figure out what we want to do. So we will pop in our very first action. I'll put the action cubes over here so you can see exactly what I'm doing, and it'll make much more sense to you that way. So I will spend 1 cube and I will do a move action. Now I will follow the path and I will enter this mountain space right here. Now we're going to see in the high pass we can potentially run into juvenile dragons. We can also run into orcs. So that's something we may have to combat when we get here. And again, the move action normally would cost 2 actions to move into a mountain, but since I'm a half orc, I don't need to worry about it. So my very first action is going there. The moment a hero enters a tile that has not been explored, and this tile has not been explored yet, we're going to reveal a wilderness token that happens to match that terrain type. So we are in a mountain, the high pass, and again, the mountain token matches that little symbol down here on the bottom, so we will reveal it and figure out what we will get. And we will get the Forgotten City. Now, the Forgotten City is super duper awesome, especially in a very large map, because you have the Forgotten City and you also have the Dwarven Ruins. Anytime this is revealed, you're going to pick 1 token from every single terrain type that happens to be in the game. So in a 2 terrain type, I'm going to grab 2 more tokens. In a 5 terrain type game, that means I'm going to grab 5 more terrain tokens, and I'm going to go ahead and add them onto the high pass. This adds to the variety of the game and allows us to modify the map and get a little bit of variety in the game. But when we do this, we get 1 token from every single terrain type, and they are going to pop up here, which means that yes, a wilderness token from the plains can now pop up in the mountains here. So I'll grab the first one here, and we will reveal a treasure, and I'll grab the next one over here, and we are going to reveal an item. Now, anytime a player finds a Forgotten City, and for the first player only, when you do that, you will gain 1 legend point, and you will also gain 5 fame for doing so. If you forget it, they're all listed right here on the ways we get legend points and fame. we look at this list right here, we will see that we get 1 legend point and 5 fame for doing so. And there's various different ways we get these things, including getting titles. We can go complete missions. We can kill other heroes. We're doing PvP. We can learn spells. We can discover by searching various different sites in various different ways. We'll cover those when we get to those. But understand we have now made 1 legend point, which is a victory point, and we now have made 5 fame. So this item and this treasure, since there's no number on them, if it had a number, it would go in the location, but since there's no item number on them themselves, word's hard some days, these tokens are going to go right in the location I'm on right now, and it's kind of done that way as a reminder that you've explored that location. If you don't like to do that, you can kind of put them off to the side if it bothers you, or you just put them next to the tile right there, but most people don't get bothered by the clutter and just simply put those tokens right down there just to signify that's what they found. So since we found an item, we're going to draw a top item from the item deck. And then since we found a treasure, because we found a treasure token, we're going to draw the top treasure from the treasure deck. So we found, ooh, wow, this is a great start for us already. So we have a dagger. I could equip the dagger, because whenever you get an item, you get a free equip action from discovering those items. So if I decided to equip this dagger, I would slide the spear over and I place the dagger over here. Now, you can't dual wield in this game. Well, in the expansion, for I believe the natives expansion that's coming out, I've heard rumors that there's going to be a class that can dual wield, but so far in the game, none of the classes can dual wield. But why would I want to do that? Well, the dagger can be thrown and the spear can be thrown. So if I enter a combat and I'm hiding, I can throw the dagger at the first round of combat, and the second round of combat, I can charge it with my spear and start stabbing things. So that actually could be pretty darn beneficial. And I think I'm actually going to do that because it could be nice as long as I hide very, very well. And then the Brogan of the Birds is very, very nice because it gives us a fly action once per, I believe it's once per turn if I remember correctly. Now, if you ever need to look anything up, you can always look in the rulebook. And all of the items are listed here in the rulebook that gives you an explanation of exactly what they do. And it's all alphabetized. And we look over here on the Brogan. It says the Brogan. Bracers. Is that from, oh, that's from the expansion. So I would need the expansion booklet. And there's a little letter D in the lower right hand corner. It signifies from the Desolation expansion. So for the Brogan of the Birds, it says, epic treasure may fly during combat and for 1 move action taken each turn. So when you fly, you basically pick a tile and you're going to land on it, but there's certain spaces you can't land in when you pick those tiles. So it can be pretty powerful. Could be a pretty good getaway if I want to use it later times. I'm not quite going to use it yet. But here's the other very, very cool thing. You're going to notice that the dagger had kind of a brown banner, kind of a boring brown boring, good way to remember it. And the Brogan has this nice banner that's this nice salmon color. That basically means that this is an epic treasure. Every time you find an epic treasure, if you decide to reveal it, which means you basically equip it, once you reveal it, it's going to give you 1 legend point, and it's also going to give you 5 fame. So we're actually doing quite well. We're on the board. Now, if I didn't reveal this because I put on my backpack face down, it's not going to give me that legend point. It's not going to give me that fame. Again, it doesn't happen until I reveal it. Now that I revealed it, I have the legend point and the fame for the rest of the game. Even if I end up selling this or even if it gets taken from me somehow, I still have those rewards from doing that. All of that from my very first action. That was a great start to the game. Let's go ahead and figure out what we want to do next. Now, we've only taken 1 action so far, and that's been the move action. And I think I'm actually going to use the Brogan of the, or the Brogans, sorry, plural, because there's 2 of them. The Brogans of the Birds as my second action. So it says I can use flight for 1 move action. So I basically need to pick an adjacent tile, and then I roll a 6-sided to see which one of the little clearings I'm going to land in. So there's a couple of caveats when we use the Brogans because they have the ability to flight. When you use the power of flight, I should put that right there to remember me that I put that right there. Whenever we use the power of flight, if we land in a terrain type that has monsters, we cannot hide because you're basically flying in. It's pretty easy to see where you're landing when you're kind of flying, and the bad guys can go, yeah, there's dinner right there. So you can't do that, but luckily there's not a lot of enemies on the map. Additionally, you can only fly to an adjacent hex. Since I'm right here, that means I can only go to these 5 hexes around me right there. And even on top of that, where you're going to land is going to be random. The trick is you cannot fly into or out of a cave. So if I happen to be in this cave, I couldn't fly out of it. And if I wanted to go this tile, I can't land in that cave. Luckily, I don't want to go to that tile. I'm actually thinking I want to go to this tile or this tile. Now this tile is kind of cool because it's going to allow me to show you how to find secret passages, because you're going to see these tiles have these secret passages, which are these dark passages that have a purple outline on them. So secret passages connect various different clearings only if they've been discovered, and it takes an action to discover them by using a search action. If you discover them, you and only you, and that's going to be important for multiplayer games, can use that for the rest of the game. So if I discover this secret passage, I can go between space or clearing 1 and clearing 5 anytime I want to if I'm one of those clearings. If we're playing a multiplayer game, other players cannot until they also find that clearing as well. Again, that's where that sheet can be really handy, because you're going to circle those and mark off as you find those. So for my second action, I'm going to do a move action again. We're going to select the move action, and we're going to activate the flight power of our brogans. I'm thinking we're either going to land on this tile or this tile. And let's just looking at what we're going to fight. This one has juvenile dragons and adult dragons. Fire bad. Yeah, no, it's really, really bad. This one gives us juvenile dragons and ogres. Ogres, kind of bad because they got armor, but they're also kind of slow. And I can probably potentially take out an ogre if the dice are in my favor and if the actions are in my favor and if I also happen to alert. So we're going to pick the tri-peak, and since this is the tile I'm going to, now we get to roll the randomizer, see where I'm going to land. 1 through 6 for the various different clearings I can land in. We'll roll, and we will get a 2. Now, of course, I did do the fancy, super duper fancy dice tray to roll in, which I should be using, but heck, I forgot to do it, and I'll probably forget to do it at least a couple times. So we are going to fly from the high pass, and we're going to go all the way over to clearing number 2, which is perfectly awesome for us, because we went to a new tile that has not been explored yet. So I get to draw one of these wilderness tokens. We see that the tri-peaks is a mountain location, so we're going to grab a mountain wilderness token. So we'll grab the top one right here. We will reveal it, and we will get a site. So anytime we get a site, I'm going to put this out to the side because I don't want to distract the board here too much. Generally, when I play, whatever I do is I just put them down like that to show where I actually had those encounters, so I can kind of tell the story what we're doing here. But for this video, I think that's going to go ahead and annoy some people, so I don't want to do that. But we have discovered a site. So we have our 4 site locations. Now remember, these are taken from the mountains and the plains. So I could get a plain site or I can get a mountain site, depending on the draw right here. So I will shuffle these up so nobody thinks that I pre-planned this and try to make this super duper cool, because that was a really lucky grab of the Forgotten City, and that also was totally random and totally shuffled. So I was kind of impressed by that. So just to show that I'm not a dirty, filthy little cheater, I'm shuffling up these site tokens. So revealing the top site token, we have found the monolith. Now the monolith happens to be associated with the plains. Even though I'm in the mountains, that's darn okay. And it's going to be in location 2. Again, I'm not cheating. I'm on camera. You see what I'm doing. The monolith is right there, and we placed the monolith right there. Here's the trick. We have not found the monolith. We have just heard rumors that the monolith is in this location. So I do not get the legend points, and I do not get the fame from the monolith yet because it has not been found. To find it, you must do a search action. And again, when you succeed in that search action, you and only you know the location of it, which can matter for other players. And again, only the first person to find it gets the legend points and gets the fame for discovering it. So right now, we just know the location exists. So we're not even going to fill up the cards for the monolith. We're not going to worry about any bad guys there because they haven't been rolled yet. It could happen pretty darn soon. So we get to decide what we want to do. So I basically have 2 options at this point. I can search for the monolith, and if I find it, I'm going to fill it with deep treasures and regular treasures and hopefully get the chance to loot those locations. Here's the trick. Whenever we want to search for locations, and now I use the dice rolling camera right over here, we will roll the dice. Again, remember, the game hates you. It's going to make you pick the dice that are worse for you. So this is a success, this is a fail. Since I got 1 fail, we must take the failure and we must move on with that, which will be a loss of an action. So there's ways you can hedge your bets, because every time you take additional search actions every single turn, you decide which dice to re-roll. I would just re-roll the failed dice on additional search actions. The problem here is I only have 2 actions left this turn, and since I only have an iron helm and I'm in a land with juvenile dragons and ogres, I probably want to hide, or not hide, almost made a mistake there. I actually want to do the sneak action, which gives me a better chance to hide, because it's one of the only times in the game you can make the dice hate you a little bit less. And this early in the game, with only an iron helm and a spear and a dagger to my name, an ogre can pretty much one-shot me, and so can these juvenile dragons. So I want to make sure I hedge my bets by hiding. So I'm probably not going to do any of that searching stuff. I think what we're going to do is we're going to do an alert action. I'll explain what alerting does in a little bit. It allows us to be more efficient in combat if we do get attacked. And then with my final action, I'm going to go ahead and do the sneak action. Now, I forgot to use the Pente Stone, which I said I was going to do. This is round 1 or day 1 of our adventure right here. We are going to end the day phase or the action phase. And now we get to move into the part of the phase where the bad guys get to potentially spawn. And then potentially we'll go into the third or the second half of the second phase where the bad guys can potentially get into combat with us. And the way that's going to happen is we're going to roll these dice right here. Now, in a multiplayer game, these dice are only going to be rolled one time. And in a solo game, they're also only going to be rolled one time. But the importance of that is because monsters are only going to spawn on a hex tile where a hero happens to be. So if I was playing a 3-player game and I had a hero here, and a hero here, we're going to roll the dice once and we're going to compare the results only to the tiles where heroes currently happen to be. The other tiles will not spawn monsters at all. So that's all that's going to happen on that. Since we're only playing a solo game, that means monsters can only spawn on the tile I happen to currently be occupying. So we're only going to be rolling for this tile right here. And basically what I'm looking for, or not, depending on what I want to happen, is if I get a mountain symbol, dragons are going to spawn. If I get this stench symbol, that means ogres are going to spawn. If the dice do not show any of those symbols, no monsters are going to spawn this turn. So let's go ahead and roll the dice and see if we get any monsters or enemies spawning for us. So we see that we got a stench symbol, and we see that we got the cave symbol. So we're not in the caves, we're in the mountains, so we don't need to worry about that at all. But we did get the stench symbol, and we got the number 2. So the black dice pair up with the black dice, the gray dice pair up with the gray dice. So since I got the stench symbol and the number 2, that means that we are going to spawn. So we're going to compare the stench symbol to whatever spawns when that symbol happens to be rolled. We see that happens to be ogres. The amount of ogres is going to be based on that die roll. So we're going to go ahead and find 2 ogres, and they're going to come out here, and they are going to make our life miserable. And they always spawn 2 things. One, you'll notice that these are double-sided. They always spawn, or whenever they always move with their name side up, first of all. And second of all, they're always going to spawn in a location where the hero happens to be, or unless you're running into one of the epic bosses, then they kind of spawn a little differently based on how we roll the dice. So these 2 ogres are going to spawn right here just like that. Now again, in the normal game, in a multiplayer game, we'd only roll the dice once for all the location where heroes happen to be. So we don't roll these multiple times. So now we've done that, now we go to the hide portion. Now you always want to go for the hide portion because this is going to affect if you're going to be having a miserable time in the first round of combat, or if you get some options that first round of combat, which can be very important in the lower levels. And then again, we're going to roll the dice. Now normally, dice hate you in this game. If you get at least 1 dragon symbol, that means you've been spotted by the enemies, and then they're going to go ahead and start combat with you out of hiding. Since I did a sneak action, that means I get to ignore one of the dice. So I can decide to ignore that die result, meaning I have successfully hidden. The only negative about this is if both these show a spotting by the enemies, I can ignore this dice, but I still have to live with the results of that dice right there. So let's go ahead and roll the dice and figure out if we're going to hide or if life's going to get a little bit entertaining for our hero. So we see right here that we got 2 hide symbols right there, or I should say lack of symbols, because both of the dice came up like that. So since I'm sneaking, I can choose which die I want to ignore. I'll ignore that one, and we'll take that result right here. And we're going to go into the first round of the battle phase perfectly hidden. So now what's going to happen is a couple different things, and we're going to do this in a very specific order. Make sure you're doing this order every single time you do a combat, because it's going to be very important when it comes to casting spells, because that's an interesting thing about this game. Spells are cast during combat. Even movement spells are cast during combat. Try to think of the game like this. Your action phase is the daytime. The battle phase and the combat phase is the nighttime. That's where we're going to cast spells for preparation and do those other things. And that kind of helps you understand the theme of why the game works like that. Again, actions during the day, battle during the night, and that's one of the only times we get to cast the spells, is we always cast spells during the combat. So the very first thing that is going to happen during the combat phase is we need to make a choice as a hero. If we are hidden, we don't get this choice at all. If we are hidden, we have two choices depending on what kind of equipment we currently have equipped. If we have any ranged items at all, we can stay hidden and go into an ambush mode. If we do not have any ranged items equipped, we have two choices only. You can remain unhidden, and then you will go into the battle unhidden, or you can decide to stay hidden, which means you're not going to get to do any actions this combat round at all. And if you ever have two combat rounds where nobody's hurt or nobody dies, whether that's the heroes or the bad guys, if you have two consecutive combat rounds where that happens, the battle is going to come to an end. The night phase is going to come to an end. We're going to do a little bit of cleanup, and we're going to move on to day number 2. So I do actually have one ranged weapon, and I actually have two ranged weapons. So the thing to consider about these ogres is that we're going to see that they have a whole bunch of statistics for them. The first number right here on the red cube is how much damage they do. They hit for 3 points of damage. We're going to see there's a number 8 and the small little number right above the brown cube. That number 8 is going to be the tiebreaker when it comes to speed. It's only used for tiebreakers unless you're using one of the special rules that come with the game about early lengthen attacks. And there's some special rules. We're not going to cover them because those are optional rules for the game. Next up, we're going to have this little brown cube symbol. This is going to be used for the potential of the combat. The first number is attack speed. The second number is their maneuver speed. This number right here that is in the shield, in this case, happens to be how much hit points or how much toughness they have. And this final number right over here is how much fame they're worth if I happen to kill them. So sometimes this number will be on top of a heart, which means you don't have to worry about it. That's normal toughness. Sometimes it'll have a shield behind it, which means that this creature is armored. Whenever a creature is armored, that means whenever you hit it, you must ignore one of the swords. So if you happen to have a weapon that has multiple swords, like 4 swords on it, it's only going to knock off one of the swords, meaning it does 1 less point of damage. If it's a heart symbol or the skeleton or undead symbol, then you don't need to worry about it. They don't block any of your swords at all. So basically what we are looking at right here is I have the potential to do 4 points of damage to an ogre only if I dual wield my spear. Luckily, it only takes 3 points of damage to kill an ogre, but I still need to be using it with both my hands. Currently, I'm not using both my hands to be equipped with this item. So I have a couple thought processes of what I can do right here. I can go for the first attack round, throw my dagger, and whenever I throw my dagger, I get the opportunity to pull an item out of my backpack. Unfortunately, that's not going to help me here at all because my spear is equipped in my other hand, which is kind of going to handicap me a little bit, meaning I can't do enough damage to kill an ogre. But if I throw the dagger first, do a wound to him, and if I stay hidden, luckily, second round, I can use my spear to stab it, and then I just have to worry about how I want to kill that second ogre. The trick here is, here's the big fun trick of all this. The only thing I have is an iron helm. These ogres do 3 points of damage, which is effectively my hit points or my toughness. So if I'm not wearing this helm, or they hit me and happen to break this helm, they only have to hit me 1 time to kill me. And that's going to be the end of the game, which is going to make this a very, very boring playthrough. Basically, you watch the whole 45-minute setup just to watch me survive 1 day and game over. So the reason why I went through that long-wind is because I want you to understand how the thought processes of this game work and how you want to play the game. So basically, combat's going to be broken down into phases. And I'll pull out the little combat reference right here just so you can see exactly how this works. First thing we're going to do is we're going to have the challenge phase. This is where I'm going to decide if I want to stay hidden or not. If I don't stay hidden, that means the ogre is going to challenge me. Now, in a multiplayer game, if you have multiple heroes in a spot, the ogres will randomly pick who they're going to target. So they could all go against one hero. They can break up versus multiple heroes. It depends on just the luck of the die. There's also an extra rule in the game called challenging or luring. Actually, it's called luring, which allows you to pick which monster is going to attack you because you're basically taunting it. Next up, we're going to go to the activation where we get to activate any permanent spells or artifacts that we have. There's not a lot of them in the game, and I definitely don't happen to have any of them. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the evade portion. Now, to evade, I just need to produce enough maneuver cubes to be better than their current ability, and then I get to escape from these creatures. Now, if I do that, I don't need to worry about the rest of the combat sequence, and then I can go ahead and not worry about these ogres at all, and I can actually get away from them, which I think is what I want to do because I'm not ready to attack these ogres yet, so I don't think I can do so successfully. If I decide to continue on, we go on the targeting, which I pick which ogre I'm going to attack. Then I'm going to pick my tactics of where I'm going to spend my cubes. Remember, I can only spend up to 6 cubes because I did alert. If you don't alert, you only can spend 5 cubes on your current attack round. Then the monsters are going to decide which hero they're going to attack. Oh, I'm sorry, they're going to do their targeting. I'm sorry, they do that during the targeting step. During the monster tactics, we're going to see if they're going to flip over to the other side. And then we're going to go ahead and resolve all of our actions, and then we're going to do some cleanup. We're not going to do any of that because I don't want to get my teeth kicked in because that's not going to be fun in this early video. So, I'm going to stay hidden for the very first part, which is going to be challenge phase. Then we're going to go to the part of the phase where we get to activate any magic items, and now we're going to go to the evade portion. So to evade these ogres, all I have to do is I have to have my maneuverability better than their maneuverability. So we see that both the ogres have the same maneuverability of 2. I have to beat it. It's not a match, I have to beat it. So that means I have to have at least 3 maneuverability cubes. I happen to do that, so I can place 3 of my maneuverability cubes onto my hero, and then during the escape phase, the escape's going to happen. Now, the unfortunate thing about doing this is I cannot cast any spells. Well, I can't cast spells anyways because I can't cast Fireball, because not only do I not have enough magic to do so, I simply can't. Now, I could come back at a later date and Fireball these guys and blow them out of the water, and I could potentially do that, but we're not going to worry about that because I decided to evade. Since I decided to evade, I must now move to an adjacent clearing. I don't have a choice. I must move to adjacent clearing, which means I go to 3, can move all the way over here to 1. I could go towards this one right here, or I can go towards a 6. Now, you don't actually enter the clearing. You stay on the path between clearings, so it doesn't give you a free exploration or anything like that. I do know that I wanted to head towards the narrow ridges, so what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to move to this bridge right here. So I'm going to place my hero right here in between, and I'm just kind of lean him up. Well, that's not going to work out too well. I'm going to place him just like this. Is not going to work in my favor at all. So I am, just so you know, I'm in this clearing. I'm not actually in space number 6 yet, even though my token here is a little bit too large for that. So that is going to be the end of that. Now we're going to do the cleanup. All the cubes, as long as they're not wounded, are going to return to our unwounded section. And that's the end of the first day. We will go ahead and start day number 2. We'll clean up all our cubes. And let's go ahead and start day number 2 and see exactly what we want to do this turn. Now, I want that treasure. I want that treasure really, really badly because there's lots of good stuff there. There's a potential for up to 6 treasures in that location. The problem is those ogres are going to be a little bit nasty. So I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and head for the narrow ridges. And then once I'm in the narrow ridges, maybe potentially I can get some good rewards and I can possibly come back and take these ogres out. So the very first thing I need to do is I need to move into one of the clearings here. Now it's mandatory that I take move as my very first action because I have to actually enter this clearing right here. So we're going to spend our first action as a move action, and then we will enter this clearing just like that. Now again, thanks to the fact that I'm a half orc, I don't have to worry about the mountains affecting my movement. It only takes me 1 action to move there. So I'm going to spend my second action cube as a movement again, and we're going to move over here into location number 5. And I could search for a path, or I can move over here into the narrow ridges, which is what I really think I want to do. So I'm going to do my third move. I'm going to move over here into the narrow ridges, and I'm going to move from this space right here all the way down here, and I'm going to explore the narrow ridges. So since this is the first time this has been explored, we will reveal a wilderness token, and we are going to find the gate. So the gate has the number 4 on it, which means it's going to go to space number 4. And since there's only 1 gate on the board, it really doesn't help me at all that much right now. So I don't need to worry about it. I still have 1 action left over. So again, we are going to spend our last action doing a sneak action because I'm sure you've seen already how important it is to make sure that we don't get seen by the bad guys. Now, unfortunately, I really need to take out those ogres, or hopefully hope they run away. So the first thing that's going to happen is we're going to roll to see if anything spawns. So we are looking for juvenile dragons on a mountain, or if we roll the sound, meaning we're too darn noisy, we are going to get some adult dragons. Don't want any of those things to happen. We will get planes. We're not on the planes, so we don't need to worry about it. And then we will get the carcasses, which means we also don't need to worry about it. So the dice are in our favor because the symbols don't match at all. So now we would, if we need to worry about, because there's enemies, we would hide if we needed to. We don't need to worry about it. And now the combat phase is going to happen. Remember, the combat phase always happens every single day or every single round. It does not matter. And the reason why that's so important is because that gives you the opportunity to cast spells, because remember, spells can only be cast during combat. And it's very important, such as some of the travel spells and abilities that allow you to do various different things, but they can only be cast during the combat round. So there's always is a combat every single round, even if it's not available on the board, so don't ever forget that. It's action phase, monster summon, combat phase, cleanup, and then you are done. So since there's nothing happening here, we're going to go ahead and end the turn, and we'll move on to day number 3. And things are not really looking that super duper fantastic. We need to find something entertaining very, very quick. And by entertaining, I mean bad guys. I don't have any money. I could get a quest, but I think it's a little bit too early to worry about quests. So we're basically going to do move 1. We will do move 2. We will do move 3. I don't want to hide, but I almost think we really have to. So we will do a sneak action again. And now we're going to go ahead and roll to see if we get any more bad guys spawning. We are looking for mountains or sound again. And we got sound. Okay, we also got the return, so this is actually great. You're going to get to see what 2 of the dice can do. We're going to get the return action, and we're going to get the sound. So let's go ahead and look exactly how that works. So let's process this in order. This return action would do a couple different things. If there is a tile that happens to have no monsters on, or I'm sorry, I almost said it backwards. If there's a tile with no heroes on it, all the monsters on that tile are going to leave and they're going to go back to their home wherever they came from. This is actually great for me. I'm actually very happy with that result. So that'll process that. But the unfortunate thing is we also happen to find 1 adult dragon, because this symbol matches that. We see adult dragons and we're going to get 1. So we're going to run into 1 adult dragon, which is super duper not fun at all. Or very fun, depends on how you look at it. So 1 adult dragon is going to spawn. So let's go ahead and look at these adult dragons. We see they do only 2 points of damage, not that crazy. They only have attack speed of 1, but the maneuverability is 3. They have flight, which would only matter for various such as things, such as if I would cast Fairy Chasm or various different things, because Fairy Chasm is great and powerful, but doesn't affect flying enemies. We also see that he is worth 12 fame if we take him out. Additionally, this could be worth some of the quests that could be really darn awesome. And I haven't explained the quests yet because we haven't gotten to the towns, but once we get to the towns, I'm going to go ahead and show you how those quests work, because every single town has a special quest that's specifically assigned to it. So I need to try to hide. So let's see if we can hide from these horrible creatures. Okay, so I am sneaking. So we got a found and a successful sneak roll. Since I happen to be sneaking, I can ignore one of the dice. I'm going to ignore this dice, which means I'm going to stay hidden. But I want to take out this dragon. And I think I want to have me a little bit of fun. Now, he is armored. And again, I forgot to switch that spear to two-handed, which is going to be okay. It's going to allow you to see a little bit of the fun of the game. So let's go ahead and process this for the full thing that's going to go ahead. During the challenge phase, we're going to decide if we want to become unhidden or not. I have a ranged weapon, so I'm going to do an ambush, so I'm not going to become unhidden. Now we get the chance to activate any of our permanent items. We don't have any. Now we get the chance to evade. We do not want to. So now the adult dragon is going to target any hero that it challenged during the challenge phase. It couldn't challenge me because it can't see me. So that effectively means I'm going to get one round of attacks perfectly free, which is going to be super duper nice, which is basically why we're staying hidden. So it's basically going to look around, try to find its prey, know that there's somebody there, but we're hiding, so it can't do anything to us at all. So we now are going to go ahead and target it. So I'm going to pull this off and show you what we do for targeting in a multiplayer game. We're going to put our token right here to signify that we are targeting this dragon right now. So we target the dragon, now we got to figure out how we're going to spend our cubes. Since I did not alert, I can only spend 5 cubes right now instead of the normal 6 when we alert. And since I'm hidden, I basically want to go before it, which means I want to put as much as I can in maneuverability, into speed, and not worry too much about maneuverability because it can't attack me because it does not see me at all. So we're going to spend 1 cube on the dagger right here, which is only going to do 1 point of damage, which is all we really need to do, which is kind of nice. And then we are going to spend 3 of our cubes that are going to go here, here, and here, just like that. Now I've only spent 4 cubes. I can spend a total of 5. Unfortunately, I don't have anything to spend it on, so I'm not going to worry about it at all. Now we get to go see if the dragon's going to change his tactics. The way we do that is we take one of these hide dice and we're going to roll it. If it comes up with a dragon symbol, it's going to flip over. If it doesn't come up with a dragon symbol, it's not going to flip over. So we got the dragon symbol, which means that it is going to flip over. It's going to change its tactics. It's going to go from a thing it was thinking about doing before to now putting out a fireball. This could be super duper nasty if we weren't hidden. Luckily, we haven't been hidden, and luckily our current attack speed is higher than its maneuverability, so we get to go. So now we're going to go ahead and process everything that we have happening, and we don't need to worry about the dragon attacking us because we are completely hidden. So we're going to attack it, and we are going to do 2 points of damage. It is armored, so it's going to ignore 1 of the swords, so we're only going to do 1 point of damage. We're going to compare our total damage versus its current toughness level right here. If our total damage is equal to or greater than its toughness or hit point value, it's slain. If it's less than, we are only going to do 1 point of damage to the creature, which effectively lowers its toughness down by 1. So we're going to do that 1 point of damage, and we'll just put a cube there to remind us that it now has an effective toughness of 2, which means if I can do 2 or more points of damage in 1 hit, it's going to be defeated. You see where this is going. And now we're going to come to the end of the round. Now it can't attack me back because I am still hidden effectively, but now I need to roll to see if I can stay hidden. Since I threw the dagger right here, and again it's going to be landing in the clearing in just a second, now I need to roll to see if I can stay hidden. Unfortunately, at this point, I don't get the bonus of sneak anymore, so I need both of these dice that come with the black side. If even just one of them comes up, since I'm not sneaking anymore, that means I'm going to stop hiding, and then we got to worry about things. So we did get 1 of the dice to pop up like this, and again, since we can't be sneaking anymore, we are now going to go ahead and start the next combat round. But before we do that, we got to do some cleanup. None of the actions we did have a bleed symbol on it, and a bleed symbol is this symbol right here. If any cubes are on top of a bleed action, those cubes don't go back to your healthy box, they go back to your wounded box when they're removed from whatever you happen to use those cubes on. So now we're going to move into combat round 2. At the start of combat round 2, I am no longer hidden at all. So now I need to figure out what I want to do. So the very first thing that's going to happen is that the dragon is going to challenge me, which means he can definitely see me and he can come after me very, very much. Action phase 2 is we're going to activate any abilities. I can't happen to do that. I could evade during the third part of the phase, but I definitely don't want to evade. So now we're going to go ahead and decide what kind of tactics and what kind of actions and where we want to spend our cubes. Of course, obviously the targeting, I kind of skipped that, but there's only us. I'm targeting him, he's targeting me. Generally speaking, a monster will target whatever it challenges. Since he challenged me, he's going to target me. So now let's go to spending our cubes. Basically, I need my attack speed to be greater than his maneuverability because he effectively only has 2 toughness now, which means I can kill him with 1 hit as long as I am faster than him. I just have to be faster than him. So I'll take 3 of my 5 cubes I can spend per combat round, and I'll go 1, 2, 3 into my attack speed right there. I spent 3 of my total 5 cubes I can spend. I'm going to spend 2 more cubes on the spear right here, and now remember that effectively this dagger is landing right here in the clearing. I don't have access to it anymore. So when I threw the dagger, I forgot that since I was doing a range attack, I should have rolled the range dice here. And I'm going to go ahead and roll them just so you can see what would have happened, and we'll see how that actually works with our damage and everything like that. Just understand that the moment I threw this dagger, I should have rolled it, and it is a possibility the damage could have hit 0 or possibly negative. And if that does actually happen, then I'm not going to actually do the damage here that I should be doing, which is kind of important to understand. But let's go and roll those dice. And luckily we see that I got a +1 and a +2. I'm going to take the worst one, which is going to be a +1, which means the daggers actually do 1 more point of damage, so it doesn't actually change things, luckily. But hey, just want to make sure you see how it is to keep me fully honest here. Back to the gameplay. So now we go to the tactics for the dragon. It's going to roll 1 die to see if it's going to flip over to its other side. Remember, dragon head means it flips. It did not roll a dragon head, which means it's going to stay on the same tactic side, which is basically saying that since its attack speed is 2, if I had an attack speed of 2, it would go on 42, because the 42 is higher than my 20, which means it would fireball me before I get the chance to go. Since my current attack speed is 3, which is greater than its 2, 3 goes before 2, so I get to go first. So I'm going to compare my total attack speed versus its maneuverability. My attack speed is greater than its maneuverability, so I don't need to worry about rolling the attack dice at all. So I'm going to hit the dragon here automatically, and I'm going to do 3 points of damage. Since we have 2 cubes plus a sword, each sword is an additional point of damage. So if it happened to show 2 swords, that'd be 4 points of damage. Unfortunately, this creature is armored, which means it's going to ignore 1 sword. So I'm going to do a total of 2 points of damage. Here's the cool thing. Since I wounded it with the dagger, I dropped its toughness or its effective hit points down by 1, which means it actually only has effective toughness of 2. Since I'm doing 2 points of damage, I have slain the dragon, and I do that before it even gets a chance to attack me and kill me. So since I've defeated this dragon, I will flip it back over to its normal side to see that we will gain 12 fame for defeating this dragon, meaning that we are now up to 22 points of fame already, which is actually super duper nice. That's actually 2 legendary points, by the way. Every 10 points of fame is 1 legend point, as long as you make it back to town by the end of the game. If you don't make it back to town, you lose half of your fame. But this creature is defeated. Now, whenever you defeat a creature, it is dead for the rest of the game, which means conceivably you can start depleting some of these tiles from all the different creatures that are on them. And that's why in a larger player game, you want to make sure you use those larger maps so you have more access to different creatures. Now, there is an optional rule that allows you to have endless hordes of creatures, but we are not playing with the endless hordes of creatures rule. This creature is dead. It's removed from the game. We will simply place it over here in our kills pile, reminding us of the mighty things we have killed. We have slain an adult dragon in our journey as the half-orc battle mage. So the dagger, we will pick it back up. I'm going to put it over here in our backpack because I think, no, actually, that actually kind of worked out pretty good for what we were doing before. I think we will leave it like that. We will remove all the cubes. They will go back to our unwounded category because we did not take any damage. We're actually doing really darn good so far in this early stages of the game. We have defeated it. That's going to end that round. Let's go ahead and start at day number 4. And I think for day number 4, we're going to hightail it back to the monolith because we want to get some awesome super duper treasures. So action number 1 is we will do a move, and that's going to allow us to move from 6 to 3 right there. We will do a move. It's going to go from 3 to 2. We will do a move. We will go from 2 to 1. And now this is where we want to figure out what we want to do. Do we want to alert? Do we want to sneak in case more monsters come out? We've seen how tough those dragons can potentially be if they get their fireball off. Or do we want to just go into the tri-peaks and just hopefully hope that the dice are not against us? Yeah, that'd be dumb. So we're going to go ahead and do a sneak action. So we're going to roll the hide dice. We roll the, before we roll the hide dice, we got to see if things spawn. That's the first thing we need to do. So we are looking for mountains or sound again. We did not get the mountains and we did not get the sound. We got the scent and we got the plains, so nothing is going to spawn. So effectively, you can say I lost an action by doing that, but you can also say that I was playing it safe and making sure nothing bad ever happened to me. So again, we still do a combat round. It's still going to happen in case we have spells we want to cast, and then we're still going to do the cleanup. And then new day is going to start, and now we are on to day number 5 for us. So first action for day number 5 is going to be a move over here. Second action is going to be a move over here. And then our third action is going to be a move into the monolith. We're going to move into the monolith, and we are going to go ahead and sneak as our day 5 action. You see how sometimes these days can start getting much, much quicker as you get very, very familiar with the game. So again, we're going to roll for spawns. We are looking for mountains, and we are looking for stench again. We will roll, and we got caves again, and we got carcasses, so we did not get any enemies at all. We don't need to worry about it. Again, we get the chance to hide. Then we go into the combat phase to get the opportunity to cast spells, but that's not going to happen. But that's going to end at day number 5 for us, and that's going to end this very first of 3 videos for the game of Dragons Down. Again, this was a little bit longer because I was trying to really overly explain everything to make you understand exactly how the game plays. In the next video, we're going to cover turns number 6 through 15, and we're going to start speeding things up quite a bit. I'm just going to kind of just mention the phases, and as we bypass them, you know exactly what's going to happen. And we're going to continue our journeys on into Dragons Down as the great half-orc and battle mage, the Great Dragon Slayer.